If you're a student in the UK or you're from Botswana, you're going to want to hear this. The Home Office has just dropped a big immigration update that's tucked inside a 111-page document. I know it's a lot to take in, especially after being away for a while. But I've gone through this document and we'll be breaking down what is actually changing, why students and Botswana nationals are at the center of this update. So the Home Office released something they call HC 1333. That is the latest update to immigration rules. It's a long list, about a dozen changes, but in all, the UK is just tightening certain routes, simplifying some technical sections, and introducing completely new requirements for others. And one change in particular comes into effect immediately. There's no transition period, no waiting period, and that is the one that is affecting Botswana citizens. As of 3 p.m. on the 14th of October 2025, citizens of Botswana will now require a visa to be able to visit the UK. Before now, people from Botswana could come into the UK visa free, just like many other Commonwealth nations. But now that is completely changing and in a very big way. The UK government says this rule is being implemented because there is a significant number of people from Botswana that come into the UK and end up seeking asylum once they arrive. This has been happening since 2022, and it is putting a strain on the asylum system. So, what this means eventually is that if you're from Botswana and you need to come into the UK, you would have to apply for a visa before you're traveling. That's one. You have to get a direct airside transit visa if you're going to go through the UK to somewhere else, and you are no longer eligible for the UK's electronic travel authorization, which is required by people that are traveling to the UK visa free. So they are no longer eligible for that. So even though this rule came into effect almost immediately on the 14th of October, there is a 6 week transition period for those that have already booked their trip before this rule was announced. And after these 6 weeks, everyone else is going to be affected by this rule. The UK government has said that this isn't political and their relationship with Botswana remains as strong as ever as a Commonwealth partner. But thinking about it, some people may think, oh, it's not a ban, it's just asking you to get a visa before coming to the UK. It may sound very simple, but if we're being realistic, you know that if you've been traveling to the UK visa free, that is less financial strain on you. But right now, you have to deal with all the visa applications. Every time you have to come into the UK, you have to deal with the fees you have to pay, you have to deal with refusals, because sometimes there's going to be refusals, and it may also affect tourism or some other factors that I may not be able to mention. So it's not just a change that it's simple. I don't think that there's any change or immigration update in the UK that does not have impact on the group of people it is intended for. Now, moving away from Botswana and talking about international students. If you remember, the white paper that was published in May 2025 stated that the graduate route will be reduced from 18 months, sorry, from 24 months to 18 months. The start date for that rule has now been published, and it comes into effect on the 1st of January 2027. This does not affect the PhD students. For the PhD students, they still retain their 3 years after studies. The government says that it is reducing this pathway because students do not end up getting highly skilled jobs, or they don't transition into highly skilled jobs after graduation. They rather go into what they called survivor jobs and not the high skilled jobs that it was meant to support. Now I was asking myself, like, how does reducing or taking away 6 months from the 2 years that was given help them transition into highly skilled jobs? because even with that 2 years, it can be very difficult to land a highly skilled job in recent times. Um, Sometimes it takes a bit of luck, sometimes it could take experience. And let's not forget that you will also be required to be sponsored if you want to stay longer in the UK. And many employers have their different criteria to for sponsorship, And let's not forget that many employers are still adjusting to all of these immigration changes that are being implemented on almost every other month. And for the students, something positive that was also announced is the fact that students can now transition directly into the innovative founder route, meaning that if you're a student and you have a business idea that you've been working on, you can continue building on it without having to leave the UK to reapply from your home country. So students can now transition directly into the innovator founder role if you meet the eligibility criteria. Next up is the English language test. It was also in the white paper that it will be raised from B1 to B2. The start date has now been announced to be the 8th of January 2026 for new applications. So anybody that is applying from the 8th of January would need to meet this new requirement of a B2 English language level of proficiency. And this would apply for anyone that is applying as a skilled worker, a high potential individual, or scale up visas. And according to the Home Secretary, this is to enable people or immigrants to integrate better into the British life and contribute to national life. And in her words, she said, and I quote, "If you come to this country, you must learn our language and play your part." So that's that. That is the reason the English language bar has been raised a tad higher. So I'll just highlight other changes that you might hear about, but you don't need to stress too much over them. Palestine recognition adjustment in visa listing. German school groups get eased travel requirement. Seasonal worker rules tightened slightly. More months are required outside the UK before reapplying. I'm talking about the seasonal visa. Victims of trafficking or slavery, small technical tweaks in how their temporary stay is handled. Stateless people now allowed to bring dependents. Ukraine permission extension scheme, safeguarding measures continue in that regard. And finally, big technical overhaul. So the Part 9 of immigration rules, the grounds for refusal is now being replaced with something called Part suitability. Now, this last one might sound boring. It's actually huge for lawyers and caseworkers. It's not what concerns me and you, if I would say that, but for the lawyers and caseworkers, it's a big thing. It makes it simpler for them to navigate that section of the immigration rules. Just simplifying how refusals and cancellation decisions are being made going forward. If you have watched this far, I thank you very much. What all this just means is that the UK immigration system is evolving faster than ever. So, yeah, it's been a lot to catch up on since I've been away for a while, but coming back to this actually reminded me of why I started making these videos anyway. So, if you have a moment, kindly like this video so that YouTube will recommend it to many other people. If these kinds of videos interest you, immigration policies, updates, and just living in the UK, immigrant stories, and all, kindly hit the subscribe button. Share your thoughts in the comment section, share your perspective. What do you think about these changes? And I will see you in my next one. Bye for now.